A variety of forklift attachments are in use here at Ullrich Aluminium. Most of our branches have at least one attachment. Because we use them every day, we probably take attachments for granted and do not think about what could go wrong if we don't use them correctly and safely. The purpose of this short video is to highlight the general safe working principles when working with forklift attachments. This video will not cover everything you need to know about specific attachments. What it will do is provide you with a guiding set of safe work principles that can be applied to any attachment. But before we start discussing attachments, let me remind you that here at Ullrich Aluminium, we have a strict exclusion zone policy for pedestrians around mobile plant, including both forklifts and cranes. Pedestrians must always maintain a 3-metre exclusion zone from the plant and its load. When using the attachment, remember that the 3 metres is also from the end of the load. If this separation cannot be maintained, then neither the pedestrian or operator will intentionally enter into each other's zone without first making prior contact with the other person. Now, let's talk about some basic forklift safety principles that apply in general when using a forklift, but apply even more so when using attachments. Many of you already know this, and this video can serve as a reminder. A forklift is a dangerous piece of equipment if used unsafely. For this reason, only drivers with a current forklift high-risk work licence can operate our forklifts. But having a licence is only part of it. We need to understand what happens when we put a load on a forklift. We need to take this into account when we operate a machine so that we're able to understand if we're exceeding the capacity of the forklift. To help us determine this, every forklift that uses attachments must have an additional load plate that provides information about safe use of each attachment. You need to understand that when an attachment is attached to a forklift, this changes the centre of gravity and the load stability of the forklift, even more so than what would normally be the case with a load. Let's take a brief look at both concepts, centre of gravity and the stability triangle. We'll talk about centre of gravity first. Let's learn more about the centre of gravity of a load and why it's important to understand what it means. The centre of gravity is the balance point of the load. That is, the exact point on which the entire load will balance. For loads that are composed of consistent material, the balance point will be near the centre of the load. If the load is inconsistent, that is, it contains materials of different weights and densities, the load centre will be on the side with the heaviest material. For example, if a pallet contains bricks on one side and pillows on the other, the centre of gravity would be closer to the side with the bricks. If possible, a load should always be picked up on the side that is closest to the centre of gravity. This helps keep the weight of the load closer to the forklift and reduces the risk of the load falling off or causing the forklift to tip over. Now, let's talk about the stability triangle, which is the second concept you need to understand when operating a forklift to be able to avoid actions which could cause it to tip over. A typical forklift has 3-point suspension, with the weight supported by the 2 front tyres and the centre of the rear axles. This creates a triangle. Its centre of gravity is shown by the blue circle right in the middle of the triangle, which is also right below where the operator sits. For safe operation, the centre of gravity of a forklift that is carrying a load must stay within this stability triangle, or else the forklift will tip over. There's one last really important thing to understand before we take a closer look at forklift attachments. The attachment will change the capacity of the forklift by adding weight. For example, if the attachment weighs 500 kilograms, then the load capacity of the forklift is reduced by 500 kilograms. If after taking these considerations into account, your calculations show that the forklift will be overloaded or will tip over, then that forklift must not be used. Or another alternative method of loading or unloading must be considered. If in doubt, always refer to your supervisor. All attachments are different, but there are some common principles that apply to their use. Let's look at those principles. You need to make decisions about what is required and correct lifting procedure. Select the right equipment to lift and transport loads. Check the load capacity data plate for information about the load centre and rated capacity of the forklift, as well as the rated capacity of the attachment. Always follow the recommendations. Always check the load plate on the attachment as well and follow all recommendations. Always perform a pre-use inspection of the forklift and the attachment as well. Always travel with the load lowered, making it easier for the operator to see and to maintain stability. The higher the load, the less stable will be the forklift. Never sling loads from the tines. If it's necessary to sling a load, use a jib or other suitable attachment, or find another way to safely move the load. Always ensure attachments are secured to the forklift and become familiar with the forklift attachments that are used in your area. Ullrich Aluminium have a training and competency program in place for all forklifts and attachments. If you've not been trained and deemed competent in our forklifts and the attachments that are used in your area, do not use them. We must all think safety in everything we do every day. Stop, think safety before we act. This is the only way that we can ensure that we can get home to our loved ones safely every day. Our commitment is home safely, everybody, every day.